just landed in Europe and picked up this van, completely empty inside. It's got flooring, but no insulation, no bed, no walls, nothing that makes it livable yet. I've never built a van before, got no idea what I'm doing half the time, but we'll figure it out. Got a few tools, pretty tight deadline, and somehow I've got to turn this into a home. That's pretty much the only plan. So here it is, the full build, start to finish. Just me, working on it day by day. Let's see how it all comes together.
Today, we've started with just drawing up some plans and working out the floor space and measurements. So I've currently got my plans drawn up here. I'm looking at doing bed all the way across the back here. Then I can put kitchen here, a little seating area here, another seating area here, a bit bigger. I'll have a table in the middle which pulls out, so you've got space for probably 3 people to fit around the table. You could fit a 4th with a stool in the middle. It's only going to be me, but if I have some friends, great. I'll block off the front area and then put a little door through to the cabin. And yeah, that's the rough floor plan for the time being. All right, we are officially safe from the 5G. No, I'm kidding, but it does feel like we're in a spaceship now.
Bought all the materials that I need to get started. Have gone for plywood on the walls, using pine lining boards for the roof, and then just some interior pine for all my structural pieces.
Have started cutting out all of the door panels, and for the bottom of the door and the side door, I had the old panels, so I just used those as templates. However, these 2 top panels off the back doors, the panels are already gone, so I don't have a template for those. So what I'm doing is I'm using one of the bottom panels, now that I've cut those out. I'm using the old crappy MDF panel that went there to make a new template for the top. So I've roughly marked it out, I'm gonna cut it out and then try and fit it in there and get it. So I get that first before I cut it out of the plywood. That'll do. Obviously it's pretty rough cut, so I'll straighten the lines up and everything for the plywood ones, but got the size down. All those panels are ready to go. The next step will be to paint them. So I've just done a quick calculation on how much paint I'm going to need for the whole interior. Worked out to be probably around 15, 16 square meters. So I'll probably get about 20, 25 square meters worth just to be safe. And that should cover everything. That'll be all the interior panels on the walls, the cabinetry, the doors, but not the roof. I'm going to leave that as a nice feature of the raw wood paneling.
One of the biggest challenges on this build has just been finding the tools and materials I need. Being in a foreign country, not being able to read any of the product descriptions, that sort of thing, and also doing this on a pretty tight budget. I opted to just buy 2 power tools, so I got a impact driver and a jigsaw. Luckily though, I've been staying with some relatives and I've been able to use some of their tools, which has been unreal. Using a circular saw to cut the long bits of plywood and just having access to a few more tools really does make the job a lot easier. As much as it's not the tools to get the job done, sometimes if you don't have the right tools, it's just so much more difficult than it needs to be.
Probably one of the most nerve-wracking parts of the entire build that I will do is cutting a hole for this in my roof. I have to get up on the roof and cut a 280mm square hole. I've got all my tools up on the roof, got the vent up there. I've already just been up and marked out the hole, and then I've marked and cut out the insulation on the inside so that when I'm sawing through it doesn't rip it out. I'm just gonna have to go for it. I think I've got it all sorted out. It's gonna be a bit tricky. There's ridges in the roof, which means this isn't gonna just sit flat on the roof. It makes it difficult to glue down, but I've come up with a solution to work around that, which is putting in some plywood layers to basically fill out between the gaps, and then I'll just plug everything with silicone. Hopefully that'll do the job. Oh man, I am so nervous. I've never done anything like this before, for the record. It's the first time for everything, right? These sections here are proving really difficult with the jigsaw.
it just keeps on grabbing, and yeah, it's kind of scary. It just wrenches out of my hand. Not too sure what the best way to attack these are. Might even just try drilling some more holes, and so there's less that I have to jigsaw. Angle grinder would be much better. Probably should have got an angle grinder.
There's a hole in my roof.
We did it. I worked out trick with jigsaw. The reason it was having issues because as we're going over this gap, I had to lift the guide off the metal and then put it on the upper bit, which meant that the gap between the blade and the guide, and when there's a gap between the blade and the blade can move and then it grabs. So the trick was to put the jigsaw up on an angle and almost cut down, keep the blade and the guide close to the metal that was cutting. Just spraying a bit of rust stopper on the cut, just to seal the metal, make sure it doesn't rust. And now we're going to give it a clean, prime the surface, ready to glue down to. All right, I think I successfully got this thing pretty chock-a-block with all this sealant. I have absolutely just about drained the entire tube into filling up this whole outer sealing ring on the vent, and then all over this plywood. I'll run another bead around the outside once I sit the vent down in there, but I'm hoping now that we should have complete contact all the way around. Ooh. All right, this is the final result. Is it neat and perfect? No. Will it leak? Also no. And that's the important thing. I'm just gonna check now that this whole interior bit fits on. I don't see any reason why it shouldn't. And it's gonna be perfect. It's gonna come up and just fit nice and flush with my wood paneling ceiling. So that's great, happy there. Let's just check that she opens. I don't know if we'll be able to see it too well, but all you have to do is we just twist this bad boy and boom, we have liftoff. It's taken a couple days to head up north of where I was staying with my relatives to go visit this giant camping mega store and get all of the accessories and a few other parts that I wasn't able to get from simple hardware stores and was just cheaper to get from this place. So on the road for a few days, working out of the van just wherever I could find spaces to work, which definitely a challenge doing all this in a foreign country and yeah, not necessarily having a home base, but it's also fun. I got a bit fed up with trying to get this first one on with the nails. It just wasn't holding. These nails aren't big enough and I couldn't be asked to go back to get some bigger ones. So I just whacked in some screws on the far side and I'm just going to have to cover them up. Most of this build so far has just been so much trial and error, things taking longer than I thought they would, and then you try and fix one problem and then you end up creating another problem and then you've got to solve that new problem. But that's the fun of it. Hopefully once I paint, we'll be able to cover up all the mistakes and things. You know, the painter will fix it, right? Getting the bed and the frame for the seating feels like a really big step. It's really nice to have a bit more of an idea of the lay of the space now and actually what it feels like to be inside and where everything's going to sit. And I'm excited to now get more of that built out and move on from doing the wall paneling because that's taken a lot of time and a lot of mental capacity. I've been putting off these final interior lining panels just because I was trying to work out the best way to do it. I really want to optimize as much width as possible so that I could sleep horizontally across the bed. It's not the prettiest solution, but the van is slightly tapered, so at the back it's a little bit narrower than it is where the front side of the bed is. On the front side of the bed, with the way I've designed it now, I can sleep. I'm 6'2" and I can sleep just like head, heel, across, which is nice. It means it gives me plenty of space, and obviously it's about a double-sized bed, just slightly tapered. I've been super excited for this part, putting in all the electrics. I've gone with Vicatron components. I've got a MPPT solar charger and a DC to DC charger that charges off the alternator we're driving, and then I've just got a small 250 watt inverter. So wiring all of those together into the 12 volt system, and then we're going to be wiring lights, water pump, fridge, and USB outlets to charge. Just make sure everything's fused and switched so we can isolate everything individually. Both the solar panels and the alternator input are individually switched, so I can isolate one or the other system if I need to ever diagnose any problems, and then the battery itself can also be isolated. Did a quick mechanical check over the van, checked the brakes and all the engine, all looking really great, which I'm stoked with. Got very lucky with this van. It's only done under 100,000 kilometers, so it's in really good nick.
The day has come. We are painting. Very excited for this. Have just sanded everything down, filled up a few little holes and gaps with some glue last night, and cleaned everything out, so we're ready to paint. I've taken off all the door panels. I'm going to paint them separately so I don't get paint on the metal while I paint those. So they're all down there, ready to go. And everything else has pretty much been stripped back. I've taped the floor, I've taped the roof because I don't want to get paint on those, just around the edges.
I have a newfound appreciation for painters. Covering up all of my own mistakes sucks. One of my relatives had an older roof rack laying around, so that's made the installation of the solar panels super easy. I've just mounted them directly onto the roof rack via some pieces of wood. Now I've got solar panels all installed, up and running.
As much as these nice little trims are covering up all the gaps, I forgot how freaking annoying they are to put in, especially in this tight space. And because there's not necessarily solid bits behind these panels, some of them kind of have a bit of movement, so trying to nail into them is just near impossible. I'm just absolutely butchering them. Like, it's covering up the gaps, but then I've just got like nails all over the place. Like, it's, yeah, it doesn't look great. I had to get a tiny little drill bit to pre-drill holes for nails because trying to just nail them in was just causing way too much difficulty. Having pre-drilled them, I did this one here. This was much easier. This has solid wood behind it as well though, so it makes it a lot easier just to tap it in.
I want to keep a stealth look from the front, so I'm trying to line the whole front cabin with this stick-on carpet, which is, it looks the same as what the old commercial vans have in the front, and that way, looking in from the front, you shouldn't be able to tell that it's a camper van. Doing final clean this morning, and then have just put in all of my bedding, which has just transformed the space. It's so nice to finally have it feeling like a home. For now, this is where it's at a fully functional level. I'll do a complete walkthrough and everything a few weeks into the road once I've got everything fully set up and have gotten used to using it all. I can run over things that I would change, things I'll do better next time. Appreciate you watching. I'll catch you in the next one.